Welcome to the DGTL Growth Podcast, where marketing leaders share real wins and the challenges behind them. I'm Suse Barnes. Today, we're talking with Don Elliott, president of Gravitate. Don, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. What's working well in business for you today, Don?
Boy, that's a good question. I can tell you that definitely right now in our industry, in the marketing advertising industry, we're in what a lot of people are considering a recession. It's been arguably over 2 years long now, which in my 30 years of doing this, I've never actually seen. So a lot of the tactics are still effective that we've used in the past, just not nearly as much as they used to be. So for example, SEO, we rank really high on a lot of terms, and SEO used to be our bailiwick. We would get a lot of leads every month through it. Despite us ranking even higher than we have in the past, lead volume is dramatically dropped. Google click-through traffic is down 34% since AI was introduced, which is astronomical. We've never seen that in the history of the internet. They're down 40 million users a day because of it. So GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, is sort of the new frontier. And it is a gold rush because whoever can establish good beachheads or toeholds first are going to have an advantage. But it's not as effective as SEO used to be. It's not going back to the old days or anything like that. So GEO, what we're seeing is that when you show up in an AI result as a reference link down below, the click-through traffic on that's much lower than what used to be for a top-held position. However, the intent behind it, the intention of the person to actually engage with the company is much higher. So the conversion rates are much more powerful on GEO, even though the volumes decreased a lot. So from the SEO standpoint, the world's very different. SEO is expensive. It's a long-term play. And frankly, a lot of people just can't compete for it, even if they have a lot of money. So it's not like what it used to be. Advertising is an interesting spot because in some industries like ours, it's very saturated right now because you have so many agencies struggling. So they're advertising as much as they can. But in other industries, people don't tend to think that way, and marketing often gets cut first, which always kind of floors me. The thing that's bringing in your leads is what you're cutting off when your leads are down. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but
No.
I get it. You're looking for, you're looking at cash flow and you're like, who can we cut? So for other industries, advertising right now is really important because their competitors are pulling out of the market. So you can get a toehold again, like I was saying, you can jump ahead of the competition for less than what you would have had to have done, a couple years ago. So that's starting to work in that regard. And then influencer management or influencer marketing is still effective. It's becoming very saturated as well right now. It's very, very much trending for agencies to try to work with influencers and brands to work with influencers more than it has in the past. There's like a resurgence of that. And I think that's largely because of the ineffectiveness of SEO and just the state of advertising. People want to see authenticity. They want to be able to trust. There's not a lot of trust right now. Consumer sentiment's at an all-time low, from what I understand. So the influencer route is working for a lot of people, but it is as expensive as advertising is, sometimes even more so, depending on, what level of influencer you're going for. But at the end of the day, word of mouth and just regular good old-fashioned networking is still sort of where the bees and knees are, if I can say so.
Great. And I was going to ask about the influencer marketing. Are you seeing more micro influencers being used, or is it more the major celebrities?
It's definitely a surge for micro influencers compared to normal. That's where we're seeing a lot of the new engagement beginning. Previously, people thought of influencers as just as people with millions of followers. These are big celebrity type of people, and you would view an influencer as an alternate to a celebrity. But now what you're looking at is these are people who have corrals of an audience that they can give you access to. So instead of saying, okay, well, there's this one influencer and they have 20 million followers and it's going to cost $10,000 for a post, Or I can find these other influencers and they all have 5,000, 10,000 followers, but they're much less expensive. And now my brand is getting out in different avenues versus just one influencer and one shot. So the age of smaller influencers are definitely coming up, I would say.
Sure. I love what you're saying about GEO being a low click-through rate and higher intent. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think most searches actually are just looking for quick answers, not necessarily a deep dive. And so what AI is doing is filtering a lot of that traffic out because it's giving you the answer right up front. So if somebody is not satisfied with that answer, generally it's because they want to learn more. They need a deeper dive into it, or they're questioning the authenticity of it. But most of the time they're wanting a deeper dive, or they see something that, you'll do a search for GEO optimization and Gravitate, they'll give you an answer and Gravitate will be listed. And you say, well, I want to know more. So I'm going to click that. Wow, this is really insightful. I want to know who is behind this answer and click it. So it's sort of a way of pre-qualifying leads in that it's filtering out the people who aren't really there to buy in the first place yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, I threw you right in there with that question and you answered it fabulously. Thank you. Tell us about Gravitate and what you do, because I see on your LinkedIn profile it says "eating the internet one page at a time," which certainly lines up with the knowledge that you're sharing here. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so we're a digital marketing and web design company. We've been around since 1999. I bought the company in March of 2020. Long story short, Gravitate bought my previous agency, Elliott Design, in 2012. I
Wow,
ran it for a few years and then left and did some consulting and then came back and bought it in 2020. So it's kind of a full snake eating itself kind of thing. But yeah, so we do search engine optimization and generative engine optimization, GEO. We do a lot of paid advertisement, whether it's Google, LinkedIn, Meta, Reddit, YouTube, Hulu, all the different players. And then we host and maintain websites and we build and design websites. And that's us in a nutshell.
great. What made you want to come back and buy the agency after being away?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. So I left in 2016, very first week of 2016, because the previous owners and I just weren't on the same page about where to take the business. We had
Hmm.
a good relationship. We ended amicably, but we just didn't agree with where to go. And I decided I needed a break from, running a company with employees and all the overhead and all of that. I just needed kind of a break because I'd been in it for so long. And so I decided to do consulting for other agencies. And at that time, the consulting is wonderful. It's fun. It's, relatively easy and it's very lucrative. So I made great money. But the problem with it is as soon as you stop, then the money stops as well.
Hmm.
It's dollars in, dollars out, hour in, hour out. And so, meanwhile, Gravitate went through some pretty rough patches after I left, and they had to downsize, and they came down to a size of a company where I felt, I think I'm ready to get back into it. I'm kind of rejuvenated. I'm back ready for this, and I missed it. So it was a great opportunity to come back, and the whole process took about a year, a little over a year. So we started it in really, actually, it was at the end of 2018 is when we started our negotiations and then wrapped up March 2nd of 2020.
And then that was right in the middle of COVID, I imagine that being
Yeah,
challenging. Or was
two
it
weeks.
good for you because everything was going online?
Well, it was a mix. It was 2 weeks before quarantine that I bought the company. So it was definitely like
Oh,
a, hey, welcome
wow.
home.
Nothing like
So,
throwing you in the deep end again, a big challenge for you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so the first few months were very scary because all of our clients were freaking out and saying they can't pay, they got to cancel no matter what the contract says. So we had to get Clever, we had to work with clients and doing things like, for example, saying, okay, well, you're still on contract, you still need to pay these bills, and we're still going to do the activities. But for the next 3 months, we're going to cut your bill in half. And when you come back, then we'll be back to full swing. So making compromises like that. So for the first few months, it was really scary. We got 2 rounds of the PPP funding, and we got big numbers for that. So that helped us, and we survived that initial downturn pretty well. And then it came back in gangbusters. So, maybe 6 to 8 months after quarantine, we started to see a real turnaround. And then we went through what I'm now thinking was maybe a little bit of a bubble in marketing where every agency was just blowing up. We were all
Yeah.
growing. It was, you could cast a line, you'll catch a fish. And now those tables completely flopped.
Mhm.
And now we're looking at, the literally the opposite effect. So it's definitely been a roller coaster, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. How many people do you have on your team now, Don?
I think we're right around 20 folks. We have a mix of full-time employees and full-time contractors.
I imagine that being a consultant for those years before you restarted the agency or rejoined the agency had some educational value for you. You've now seen it from both sides. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing the consulting because I was going into other agencies, helping them solve the same problems that I've solved over all
Mm-hmm.
these years, but every problem's still different. And seeing the way other agencies were trying to solve their problems. And I also think that you tend to learn a lot when you teach. So yeah, that was really, I missed the consulting part. That was a lot of fun. But again, I want to make money when I'm not working as well as when I'm working.
Yeah, yeah. When you go on vacation as a consultant, you don't get paid, right? It's like,
Yeah,
oh, well,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Um, what innovations are you looking forward to in this very tumultuous time?
Well, the term looking forward to is where I struggle. I can tell you where I think it's going to happen, which, big surprise AI.
Yeah.
But I think, so Google and Meta in particular, and LinkedIn's starting to go down this route as well, but, and other advertising platforms, they're starting to really force AI down our throats and making us use it. So for example, with Google, you can no longer write your own personalized ad copy. You have to put in terms, and then it jumbles them together and decides in real time what the appropriate ad is to show. So we had an ad that said industrial web design for industrial companies. Like, wow, really compelling there. That just moved me. I want to work with you guys now. So complete waste. So where I think we're going to see innovation, or maybe where I hope we're going to see innovation is smarter use of AI. So the power of advertising has always lied in the words. And so to strip those from advertisers, you're stripping our number one power from us. And I think that finding platforms that are going to be able to have the right merging of human talent and creativity with all the automation that saves everybody time and money, I think is where we're going to see the innovations that at least the advertising agency is most excited about. There was the opportunity for Google to be broken up when the recent monopoly was declared, but they kind of wiggled their way out of that. And so it's not really happening now. We were all very excited about that because Google is a monopoly. Whatever they say, we have to do it.
Mhm.
And they're starting to take over the role of advertisers and again, stripping the power from our hands. So I think we're going to start to see new ad platforms rising up and new AI tools used to manage those platforms. We're of course going to see more and more generative AI, even though I would love to see less of it at this point, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And then I do think we're going to see some kind of innovations for some type of technology that helps authenticate whether this is a person behind the scenes or not. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but I think that the excitement of AI has already reached a peak and people are already getting burnt out on it and people are getting frustrated with it. And I think that there's going to be a whiplash effect that people are going to really crave human authenticity. And so what that looks like, I don't know yet. I wish we had all the capital that we can invest in the next best thing, but instead it's just kind of like wait and see what's available and wait for the market to start demanding human content.
Hmm. Do you think it's because everybody kind of feels like they have to get on board because there's some sense of being behind, or everyone is doing it, or customers are asking for it? Why do you think people are getting fatigued from it?
I think partially because it's all anyone talks about now. Like
Yeah.
any industry, any topic of conversation, somehow AI is going to be brought up. And it's polarizing because it is taking jobs. There's no question about that. A lot of people feel that it's robbing artists of their work. There's just a lot of vitriol starting to be built up. And I think a lot of it comes as well from um, tech companies, and the very wealthy are so excited about making more money, having fewer employees, things like that, that any CEO we talk to, it's so common. We'll talk to a CEO and they're like, so what are you going to do with AI on the website? And we're like, well, what do you want to do with it? Well, I don't know. Just do something. Why?
I love
Why do we
that.
need to do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think people, and then also I think that AI came out of the gate, ChatGPT came out of the gate swinging, punching way above its weight class, way more advanced than any of the public masses thought AI was. But it's not nearly as advanced as the illusion it creates is. And that's starting to catch up. People are realizing, AI lies to you deliberately. It's actually incredibly limited in its reasoning abilities. It doesn't really reason at all. It's just pattern matching and things like this. And so I think the initial glow or glamour of AI is starting to be tainted because you're realizing it's not quite everything people were saying it was. And it's not
Hmm.
nearly as advanced as they're saying it was, but they're still shoving it down your throat. And then when you look at a news article on Facebook and you don't know if it's real or not, you get frustrated, and and it makes you want to pull back inside. So I think when the internet came out, there was a gradual adoption of it. It was quick for a lot of technologies, but it was a relatively gradual adoption compared to AI, which in 2 years, all of a sudden has completely dominated the world.
Yeah. I think the expectation of it to be a fix-all is still, I think, people are misunderstanding what it can do and what it cannot do. I like the analogy of the music is not in the piano. you know,
Yeah,
like you have to actually use the tool effectively before you can make it have some value. you know,
yeah,
so I think that will be what we see, and I've talked to some other people that have the same view as you, as in a year or so there'll be more human generated content, just because of the fact that there'll be too much AI, and people will be craving the human factor. I'm seeing also the connection, the human connection is more important today than it was even maybe a year ago. I think people were still very happy to be online, but now people want to go out and have meetings with people,
yeah,
meet people face to face. So maybe we'll see some more business travel in our future. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Well, and we're seeing on social media too, people are gravitating more and more towards smaller groups instead of the
Hmm.
larger platforms. And even
Yeah.
within the larger platforms, for example, Facebook groups um, generally get a lot more activity. You get a lot more traction being active in the groups than you do the main feed,
Yeah.
because people are feeling overwhelmed. There's just too much. And I would rather know these 20 people that have an impact on me and that I recognize than, 20,000 people who all put an emoticon on my post when I post it, but have no idea who I am, or,
Hmm.
no real connection. It's like when social media came out, it was like, oh, we're all connected. And then pretty soon after that wave hit, people start realizing, well, are we more connected, or are we actually less connected now? And I think that same kind of phenomenon starting to happen again.
Yeah, it's sort of like how many friends do you really have? Like who could you call to help you out if you got a flat on the freeway? You
Yeah.
know? It's like,
Yeah.
well, it's not your thousands of followers, uh,
Yeah.
the friends you have personal connections with that will help you. Yeah. What do you think is you've mentioned some of this before, but what is working and what is frustrating conversely in your business? Is it maybe
I would
AI?
say, yeah, yeah. AI is exciting and frustrating all at the same time.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think for me personally, what's most frustrating right now is the fact that we're in this sort of collective state of fear. People are afraid of the government, they're afraid of the economy, they're afraid of wars, um, they're afraid of AI. There's so much chaos in the world right now. And what's frustrating is that it's causing people to not spend money. Businesses in particular, people are scared, so you hold your money close to your vest. You're not wanting investments, and that in turn creates a recession or an economic downturn. So it's frustrating to see that we're letting fear dictate an economy. Um, where like it doesn't have to be in this situation right now. It doesn't have to be as dire or as bad as it is. But when you compound all this fear on top of it, then everything slows down. Sales cycles drag out. People don't engage in investments the way they would normally. And then so it's kind of like you have this fear and you behave accordingly, which then generates the results that further prove that your fear is valid. And so now you're more afraid, and it creates this cycle when it's all kind of false.
Mhm.
Of course, there's plenty of stuff to be scared about, but if people collectively said, we're going to get over this fear, we're going to start spending money again, we're going to start investing in things again, and we're going to, you know, despite the tariffs, despite budget cuts, things like this, we're going to figure it out and move forward. I think we actually could, but I don't see that happening, and definitely not anytime soon. So, um, just that frustration. And I'd say that frustration is directly tied to things like the tariffs. Whatever you believe politically regarding tariffs, that could be debated. I don't care too much. But what is the disaster is there's a tariff this day, then there's not a tariff the next day, and then there's
Yeah.
another tariff, and then there's not a tariff. And this time the tariff's this high, and this time is this low, and then oh no, now it's gone. Oh no, it's back. And that chaos is really what's tearing it down, in my
Yeah, super
opinion.
instability. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just yeah. As you were saying that, I was going back to what you said about, the solutions that you made when you restarted Gravitate in COVID, and you came up with a solution that worked for your clients. Curious if you've thought about anything similar in this time. I don't know. It wouldn't be the same, dropping the fee or anything, but are you thinking through some possible solutions for that?
Yeah, constantly, absolutely trying to. I
Yeah.
mean, we're firing on all cylinders to get leads and to, keep customers coming through the doors. We're trying to implement AI, whether we want to or not. We're trying to implement it in
Yeah.
every nook and cranny of the business we can find. And really it's kind of right now all about leaning on our staff to be innovative. Like people have hours set aside just to stay up to date on what the most recent trends are and what's
Hmm.
happening, and to constantly be looking out for our clients' needs instead of just checking boxes. We have to think something different here. What else can we do that nobody's thought about? Or, how can we tweak this knob over here to affect this little thing over here? Just kind of firing on all cylinders these days.
Yeah. Yeah. What metrics are you most focused on improving for your business or your clients?
Well, the number one is just lead gen, more leads. We have this incredibly beautiful machine that we've built. It's efficient, it's profitable, it's stable, but without leads, it doesn't really matter. You can have a Ferrari and if there's no gas in it, you're still not going anywhere. So, yeah, so I think leads definitely. And then I guess it would just be just try. I hate continually bringing up AI, but it's just trying to stay on top of the wave,
Hmm.
and all these new things that are coming out, and how do you implement what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. thankfully
Yeah.
we do have humans who are helping us figure this out.
Yeah, exactly. HI, human interaction, human
Yeah.
input. Where do you want to be in 6 to 12 months if you can imagine? Best case scenario, we don't have any tariffs.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'd love to be back to a point where um, we can be very picky about which clients we bring on. Um, right now, we've opened our gates to clients that have lower budgets, or maybe they don't have quite the internal sophistication. And those are tougher relationships to have. We do them well, and we retain clients at a very high rate. When we have a client who is fully engaged mentally, and they have a budget, and they've got a team of people who care about what they're doing, then our results are just way higher than if we're working with a company that, is scraping by, they're not engaged, or they don't believe in marketing in the first place, and this is just kind of their, Hail Mary or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say 6 to 12 months, just getting back into a position where we can be a little more picky
Mm-hmm.
would be great. And then just volume. I'm just hoping for more volume than what we currently have. Our operations are incredibly efficient, so it's really just about getting enough fuel in the car.
Do you have a niche that you specialize in, or is it just across the board everybody?
We're pretty agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, we were very focused on tech startups. Um, And we still are. We still do a lot in B2B tech, in particular, like data storage, cloud security, that kind of thing. But we don't market directly to them very often anymore because in 22, when the dot-com part two bubble burst again, and investments went down 70%, so the bank crashed. We lost a ton of business practically overnight. And so we're looking, we do a lot of work with nonprofits. So that's a vertical we're real active in. We're doing quite a bit in travel and tourism, which is a little surprising because tourism's down in the US right now,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not down in other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of international travel clients and that kind of thing. So I'd say those are probably our three main, but we're pretty agnostic. We are considering starting to niche down more so that we could be even more efficient. But I don't see us ever being an agency that has a single niche. I like to be a little broader than that.
You mentioned earlier about teaching, and teaching helps you learn. I teach, so I know what you're saying there, touched my heart. I teach at the USF, and I have some undergrad advertising students. Just curious, what would your advice be to somebody who's graduating from marketing or advertising today?
Go into construction. Just joking.
I love it.
Just joking. I think our industry is becoming an industry of AI managers. So you have to embrace AI. You have to figure out how to use it and leverage it in your own personal workflows, your own personal life, because you're going to be expected now more than ever to be able to produce, twice as much as what we expected 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Because to be competitive, that's what other agencies are doing. So you have to be able to produce a lot now, which means you have to be able to leverage AI. So coming in with an edge on AI will give you an edge for sure. But the other path to me is you want to get into leadership roles as quick as you can. And I don't necessarily mean just management roles, but any kind of leadership position, because um, I was asked at a podcast the other day if AI was going to take my job. And and I said no. And I said it very confidently and probably a little cocky. But the reason I said that was because when I have an employee who is, lost a parent or dealing with depression, or, who knows what's happening, and they're struggling to get up and do their job, I can call them. I can show up at their house. I can give them a day off. I can be there for them and help talk through problems. I can be a sounding board. I can be a listening ear. AI is going to give you the answers that it thinks you want. And you know that there's not a person on the other side caring about you.
Mhm.
As human as the AI can come across, you still know it's just an AI. No one gives a shit about who you are right now. Whereas somebody in a leadership role can have empathy, they can have compassion, and they can read between the lines and come and help somebody rise to the occasion, go through grief or trauma or what have you. So if you're a type of employee who wants to just sit back and check the boxes and do what I'm told, I think your job is much more likely to be taken by AI than if you're in some kind of leadership role.
Yeah, that's great advice. I've heard so many people say, "Oh, I'm just in love with ChatGPT because it just tells me everything I want it to.
Yeah.
It says everything I wanted to say." And I'm like, "Well, that's a little bit dangerous to
Yeah.
to have that point of view because it's often wrong." I think that's just a curve. I think it's just the more time you spend with it, the more you have to more you start to understand the limitations of it. Like, we want to believe that it's going to fix everything, but it's not. And the personal relationships thing is huge. I agree.
Yeah.
You're never going to get that from an AI. No.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It'll give you relationship advice, but it won't care about your spouse.
It won't care if you take it or not either.
Yeah.
Right? I'll be
Yeah.
like, well, just one last maybe fun question. Do you have a favorite podcast?
I do, but it's not marketing related.
Oh, that's
I think my favorite my favorite podcast is probably, yeah, I would say Writing Excuses.
okay.
It's a podcast started by Brandon Sanderson and some other authors that is basically about writing. It's largely fantasy, fiction, sci-fi focused, but it's memoirs and nonfiction as well.
Oh,
And it's
interesting.
just a bunch of experts get together and they talk craft, and they have, special guests and stuff. And it's 15 or 20 minutes long. So that's a great one.
Yeah, nice and short, but full of value.
Yeah.
That's what that's what we all want, right? Yeah. Excellent. Well, Don, thank you so much for your time today and all of this perspective. I really appreciate it. How can people get a hold of you at Gravitate?
Well, our website is gravitatedesign.com. We're on LinkedIn and the socials as well. And yeah, that's probably the easiest way, actually. LinkedIn
Okay.
or gravitatedesign.com.
Super. Well, thanks very much again.
Yeah, this is great.